welcome to our reading lesson. Let's go ahead and get started by reading our learning target. I can compare and contrast the most important points from two texts on the same topic. So let's look at the words compare. Compare means to describe how two or more things are similar or alike. Contrast means to describe how two or more things are different, how they are not the same, okay? And we're going to do that by looking at the most important points. An important point is the most important detail, fact, example, or other piece of information in a text, okay? So it's what is really telling us about the topic, okay? Remember, the topic is the subject. So in order for us to be able to compare and contrast important points about the same topic, we need to be able to do a couple of things. We need to be able to decide which points are important and which are unimportant. And we need to be able to tell how those points are alike and how they are different, okay? So we're going to practice with that today, talking about water, okay? All right, so our first text that we're going to look at is titled Turn on the Tap. This is in your Ready Reading Journal on page 328. What is tap? What is a tap? When you talk about turning on the tap, it's another way of saying turning on the faucet. So tap is the thing that the water comes out of. It's like the faucet, okay? So this article is titled Turn on the Tap. You're going to read through this article for the first time just to try to figure out what it is that it's about. Then we'll go back and we'll do some more digging and learning with this text. So go ahead and pause the video and read through the text, Turn on the Tap. When you're done, you may unpause the video. All right, now we're going to look at a second article. This second article is on the next page. It is titled Fresh Water, okay? So you're going to do the same thing that you just did. You're going to read through this text just to gather information. When you're done reading through the text, then unpause the video to continue. All right, now let's talk about what both of the topics of these texts were. What was the topic of both texts? Remember, topic is the subject. So what was the subject of both texts? It's talking about water, right? And the importance of water in our lives. Now I want to ask you some questions about these texts. Where does the water we drink come from? Comes from lakes and rivers, right? Comes from those places underground, and it comes to our tap. Where could we find that information at? Did we find that in Turn on the Tap or in Fresh Water? Yeah, we found it in Turn on the Tap. In many places, water is pumped from lakes and rivers or from under the ground to wells or to treatment plants. Let's look at that word treatment plants really quick. A treatment plant is a place where sewage is cleaned so that it's not harmful or dangerous to the environment. So they take our dirty water, our sewage, and they turn it back into clean water so that it's not harmful or dangerous to the environment anymore. Why is water important? Well, water is important because we need it to live and stay healthy, don't we? Are we the only things on earth that need the water? No, plants and animals need the water too, right? It tells us that in our text, right? It says here, water is important to people. We need it to live. Did it talk about us needing water in fresh water? It told us the jobs that we needed, right? It even told us in that fresh water, it told us that we, without it, Earth wouldn't have plants, animals, or people. So we all need water, don't we? How can we make sure that we have clean water? What are some things that we can do to make sure that we do have clean water? Well, fresh water told us some things that we could do, right? We could we could not throw our garbage into lakes or rivers, and we could throw it away. That would help us to keep it clean, right? If we don't keep our water clean, the water gets polluted. This word is pollute because it is not happening in the past. Polluted would have that suffix ed on the end. So to pollute means to make impure or unclean. It's when something is contaminated by man, okay? So when we are polluting the water, that means that we are throwing garbage into it. And when water is polluted, it can be harmful to us. Harmful means likely to be damaging. So we want to make sure that our water is not polluted so that it is not harmful to us, okay? Because we need it to live. All right, so now what I want us to do is we're going to go back and reread both articles. When we're reading these articles, we need to think about that question. How do you compare and contrast the most important points in two texts? So the first thing we need to do as we're reading is we need to gather some important points, okay? We need to know which points are important and which points are unimportant. So let's go ahead and let's go back to turn on the tap. In order to help us pick out which points are important, our closed reader habit says, why does the author think water is important? Underline a sentence that tells why water is important. So I know that an important point here is going to be about why water is important, but I need to find that in my text to prove it, okay? All right, so let's go ahead, readers, and let's begin. Turn on the tap and out pours fresh, clean water. But where does it come from? In many places, water is pumped from lakes and rivers or from under the ground to wells or to treatment plants. There, it is cleaned to make it safe to drink. Then, pipes carry clean water into our homes. Water is important to people. We need it to live. To stay healthy, we drink it every day. We also use it to get clean and to wash away germs. We think there will always be plenty of water when we need it, but that may not be true. So why does the author think that water is important? We read about some important reasons in paragraph number 2, but remember, we need to find that important point. What is the most important point made in paragraph number 2? Yes, you're right. Water is important to people. Why? We need it to live. Now, the other sentences in that paragraph tell us why we need water, right? It gives examples. We need water to stay healthy. We need it to wash away the germs. We need to keep our bodies clean, right? But the main idea, what that was all about, is the most important point of people need water to live, don't they? Let's keep reading to gather more information on why this is important that we need water to live. Paragraph number 3. Ready, read. In the past, people wasted water. Water was polluted with harmful things such as garbage and oil. We must protect our water. To make sure we have fresh water in the future, everyone must help today. So be sure to use water wisely. Okay? So we came through here and we talked about some important things, right? The most important point is water is important to people because we need it to live. Now, we learned some examples from that, right? Or some reasons that the author gave, okay? Those reasons are going to be important also. So you might want to go back through and just think about a reason that was important and put a little star beside it. That might help us. I know that it says that it's important that we think that there will always be plenty of water when we need it, but that might not be true, right? If water is wasted and polluted with harmful things, that can be bad. So I'm going to put a star beside that because water was polluted with harmful things such as garbage and oil. That could cause us to have a problem with us needing it to live. So it says because of this, we must protect our water. I think that's really important that the author included that because of how important water is to us. Now let's go ahead and let's look at the second article, fresh water. Fresh water, okay? All right, in our closed reader habit, in order to answer the question, how do you compare and contrast the most important points in two texts on the same topic? We're going to use our closed reader habit. What does the author think people can do to protect water? Underline a sentence that tells something people can do to protect water. Okay? So we're thinking about what people can do to protect water. That's going to be an important point here. All right, readers, get ready. We're on paragraph number 1. Ready, read. Fresh water is more precious than gold. Without it, Earth wouldn't have plants, animals, or people. We should always treat water with care. But we put harmful things into our water. Dirty water from homes and factories flows from pipes into rivers. Ships dump garbage and oil into lakes. Cities clean this dirty water. They add things that kill the harmful germs. Now the water that comes from the tap is safe to drink. Keeping water pure is a big job, but you can help. The less water we use, the better. Take shorter showers. Don't leave the tap running when you don't need to. Don't throw garbage into rivers or lakes. If you see garbage, throw it away. Help keep our water pure and safe for everyone to enjoy. So think back to that paragraph number 4 that we read. What are the reasons or what are some of the examples that the author gave that we could do to protect water? They said we could take shorter showers, not leave it running when we don't need it, throw our garbage, don't throw garbage into rivers and lakes, throw garbage away. That could help to protect or keep our water safe, couldn't it? Now, as you were going through this text, you might have found some other ideas that you felt were really important, and you might have even made some connections back to turn on the tap, some things that you found that were the same. As you went through, or you might want to look back through again, and you might want to put a star beside some of those important ideas, okay? I think it's important to know that the water that comes from the tap is safe to drink after it's been cleaned, right? So after it goes through a process, it is safe to drink. So I think that's pretty important because we need that water and we need to know how we can get water, right? All right, now what we're going to do, guys, is we are going to think, what were some of the things that were the same about these texts? What are some of the things that were different about this text? So what we're actually going to do is we're going to kind of pause here and we're going to go on and then we'll come back, okay? So what we're going to do now is we are going to flip the page over a couple of pages to page 333. So what I want you to do is I want you to go back. You're going to have to flip back and forth between our articles, Turn on the Tap and Fresh Water. And you're going to have to fill out the graphic organizer. So tell some important points that were talked about in both of those articles. And then you're going to contrast and tell what was talked about in each of those separate articles. Okay? All right, so go ahead and complete your graphic organizer. And when you're done, you may unpause the video to continue. Okay? All right, now what you're going to do, now that you've organized your ideas, we're going to kind of take a couple steps back and we're going to come and answer some questions about the text, okay? So go ahead now and answer question number 1, part A. When you're done answering question number 1, part A, on page 330, you may unpause the video. What is the most important point in paragraph 2 of Turn on the Tap? So I'm going to go back to paragraph number 2 of Turn on the Tap, and I'm going to reread it. Water is important to people. We need it to live. To stay healthy, we drink it every day. We also use it to get clean and wash away germs. We think there will always be plenty of water when we need it, but that might not be true. So what was the main idea of that text or that paragraph? What was it all about? It was all about us needing water to live, right? That's one of the choices. That's A. So I'm going to mark that and keep going to make sure there's not a better choice. We drink water every day. Yeah, that's true, but that wasn't what paragraph number 2 was all about. That was one point from paragraph number 2, but that didn't tell us the whole important point, okay? Water washes away germs. Well, that goes back to, that was another thing that was mentioned, but remember that's where we're talking about in our success criteria, being able to determine important points from unimportant points. That unimportant point is needed to support that important point, but it's not the main part, okay? We may not always have enough water. Was that all what paragraph number 2 was about? No, it was all about us needing water to live so that we can drink water every day, so that we can wash the germs away. And if we are not careful, we might not have enough, but that wasn't what the whole thing was about, okay? Now it says, write one sentence from paragraph 2 that supports your answer to part A. And that's the one that we underlined. Water is important to people. We need it to live. Okay? All right, now let's go on to number 2. Go ahead and answer number 2. When you're done, you may unpause the video. All right, so this is going to help, or this is your graphic organizer that you did on page 333 is going to help you with this question. Which important point is in both articles? So this is where we're comparing. Go ahead and answer the question. When you're done, you may unpause the video to continue. All right, so which idea was in both texts? Did both texts talk about water coming from oceans? Neither one of them talked about water coming from oceans, did they? No, it talked about coming from lakes and rivers and underground, but not from oceans. B, there will always be enough clean water. Was that even mentioned? That's a false statement, isn't it? It told us in both that if we're not careful and take care of our water, there might not be enough. So that one's not true. Well, that one was actually only talked about in turn on the tap. C, we must protect our water. Was that mentioned in both articles? All right, I'm going to put a star beside that because it was mentioned in both, but I want to make sure there's not a better choice. Ships dump garbage into lakes. That was just a detail from the second passage, fresh water. It wasn't the main important point from both of those. So C, we must protect our water. If we go back and look in our text, remember paragraph 4 of freshwater was all about the ways that we could protect our water. And then remember in paragraph number 4 of Turn on the Tap, that first sentence, that main idea of paragraph 4 was we must protect our water, okay? So it was important from both texts to not pollute our water and to protect it, okay? All right, now let's go ahead and let's look at question number 3. Which important point is in fresh water but not in Turn on the Tap? So this is where we're contrasting. So think back to your graphic organizer that you completed, and we're contrasting, okay? All right, go ahead and answer this. When you're done, you may unpause the video. All right, so which one is mentioned in fresh water but not Turn on the Tap? We should use water carefully. Was that mentioned? That one was mentioned in Turn on the Tap, but it wasn't mentioned in fresh water. So that's not it. Water is clean to make it safe to drink. That was talked about in Turn on the Tap, right? It was talked about how they take the dirty water and they make it clean at treatment plants. So B is not it. C, people put harmful things into the water. That was mentioned in both of them, right? Remember, we have to keep our water safe and protected because of that harmfulness. So that was in both articles. Everyone can help keep water safe. That was mentioned in fresh water, but not Turn on the Tap. Turn on the Tap told us we needed to protect it, but it didn't tell us how. Fresh water did tell us how, especially in paragraph number 4. So D is the correct answer for number 3. All right, let's go on to number 4. Circle 3 things from the list below that the author of Fresh Water says that we can do to keep our water pure. Don't throw garbage into rivers and lakes. Was that mentioned in Fresh Water? Yeah, it was, wasn't it? It talked about that in that paragraph 4. Don't leave the tap running when you need to. Don't throw garbage into rivers or lakes. That's something that we could do to keep our water pure or protect it. Don't leave the tap running when you don't need it. That was mentioned on a way that we could keep our water safe and pure. Only drink water from the tap. Did it tell us that that's the only way that we could keep water pure? No, it didn't tell us where we had to drink our water from, did it? Close down factories that send dirty water into rivers. Did it tell us that we could do that to keep our water pure? They know we need factories to have things made, right? We just have to be careful with what we do with that waste. And E, take shorter showers. Yes, that is one way that we can help to keep our water pure and protect it, okay? All right, what are both articles mostly about? How are they different? How are they the same, okay? So you have done this when you completed the graphic organizer on page 333, that Venn diagram. If you haven't done that, or you need to go back and clarify some information or write in some more information, go ahead and do that, okay? All right, let's go ahead now and let's turn over to page 333, and let's talk about some things that are the same about these articles and different. So we know that Turn on the Tap and Fresh Water are both all about water. What specifically about water are both of those texts all about? We need water, right? So they were both about how important water is. So they were both about the importance of water, weren't they? All right, what's something else that both articles talked about? Both talked about how to protect the water, right? We need to keep it clean because it is so important to us. So we need to protect water was talked about in both articles. Now, what was mentioned in Turn on the Tap that was not talked about in Fresh Water? It talked to us about we needed water to live in the ways that we used water, right? It told us in paragraph 2, we need it to stay healthy, we need it to get clean, and we need it to wash our clothes. So Turn on the Tap mentioned the ways that we use water, but Fresh Water didn't. Okay, now let's talk about Fresh Water. What was mentioned in Fresh Water that was not mentioned in Turn on the Tap? Well, remember, Turn on the Tap in that paragraph 4 told us all about the things that we could do to keep water safe. It didn't tell us about that in Turn on the Tap. So Fresh Water told us the ways to keep water clean. Okay? So both articles gave us really important information on water, but they both gave us information that was different and some information that was alike. We know that they both talked about how important water is to humans and being able to drink it. They both told us that we need to protect water, but Turn on the Tap told us the way that people use the water, right? And Fresh Water told us the ways that we need to keep the water clean. All right, guys, now you're going to answer the short response question. Use the information from your Venn diagram to describe how the two articles are alike and different, okay? That will go back to our success criteria of being able to determine how important points in two texts are alike and how the important points are different. All right, bye, guys.